it was a bit difficult. But then through that, I saw another opportunity, which was to do on-demand grocery delivery within the area that I am, because everyone is so isolated. I said, all right, let's jump into the deep end on this one as well. I had some flyers, had some business cards, went around the neighborhood, said, hey, look, if you need some groceries, if you need anything delivered for you from these shops, give me a call. And then I charged like £152 or something like that per delivery.
You're kidding.
Would
you go manually do it?
I'll be doing it, yeah. I was doing it. Yeah.
Okay, walk me through your logic. How is that meant to work?
Well, it wasn't.
Okay.
And then that's when I jumped out of uni and realized that, yeah, this really is where I want to be. Like on the ground, on the floor, really putting a shift, with my own products, really, with my own creativeness. When I dropped out of uni, I definitely felt like I was on the lowest of the lows, because I was really starting from zero. Like no degrees or whichever, I'm starting from zero. In terms of even the solution, I had no sales skills already, but I knew if I want the results I want, I just have to go through it.
When you say what you just said, I'm thinking we're gonna have like drone highways.
Yeah,
this is the airspace.
Yeah, there's a few highways. Yeah, there's a few highways already active. That's more blood delivery, using drones to deliver blood and pharmaceutical, like proper emergency pharmaceutical goods. So that's, and rightfully so, that type of application has been given a priority. But if you're looking at general final mile, general logistics and things like that, it's not as high on the priority. I think regulators are, and rightfully so again, are a bit hesitant to just be allowing any drones to be flying over so many public roads, public houses. But I do think they need to be a bit less afraid, because the technology's out there, the technology is sustainable enough, the technology is robust enough.
Welcome back, listeners. Today we're chatting to Kunmi, the founder and CEO of Sorair Technologies. Kunmi is a young visionary engineer with the heart of a salesman who is building an autonomous security company in the drone and robotics industry. He's also a philosophical thinker, a little bit like me, expecting to talk about where tech is taking us in the future, and instead talking about really owning our own destiny. Someone who's persevered through a lot of ups and downs and who really believes that labels are holding us back. We get into a really detailed personal conversation covering titles and narratives and stripping out our own barriers and getting out of our own way to take ownership of our destiny. So join us for this episode where we discuss the key to taking ownership of your success and reaching your goals. One final thing, if there's something while you're here that you could do for me, anything at all, if you enjoy these episodes or if you're just finding it, hit that follow button on Spotify or Apple or YouTube, wherever you are, and follow along the show, share it with people and engage with it and let me know if you're liking it. It's the best thing you can do to help out. As this show grows, so too does its impact, and a lot of people have been giving me really positive feedback. The best way for more people to hear about it is through you. So if that's something you're happy to do, then I would be so grateful. I would love you forever. Thank you so much, and let's get into the episode. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, to be honest. Obviously, this morning was a bit of a, it was a bit of a crazy one, to be fair. But I'm feeling good overall. Good spirits,
Good.
Keep it healthy. You see what I'm saying? Keep it healthy. Definitely keeping fit, keeping the fitness up.
Okay.
And just trying not to stress too much about things I can't control. So I think that's where most of my energy comes from, to be honest, just chilling out, not being stressed.
I like that.
Yeah.
How do you determine whether something is in your control or not?
How do I? I think I think most of the time it's pretty obvious to me, because if something can be directly affected by my actions, what I do or maybe even don't do, then I know that there's some control in it for me. But if I'm waiting on someone else to do something, maybe I could push him. But other than that, there's not really much I can do. In sales, right? Obviously, I started doing sales when I was 19, when I dropped out of uni. Obviously, I was a lot different now. I was definitely a bit more pushy because there was things I wanted to do, things I didn't know. So back then, I may have been pushy with the sales, but you can't be pushy with the sales, because at the end of the day, if if the person doesn't want to buy or doesn't see the value or you haven't put it through enough, he's not going to buy. So I just take those kind of lessons into life as well and try and say, okay, cool. If I be pushy here, is it going to make a difference? If not, is there something else I can do while I'm waiting? So for example, so today I was late on the train, right? Delays. I obviously can't control that.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So because I can't control it, I'm not the train driver. I'm not on TfL headquarters signaling to the trains. There's nothing I can do. You see what I'm saying? So I just had to relax, really.
And so when you take the alternative decision, when you go, well, there's nothing I can do, how do you generate within you a sense of calm? Because we get really worked up about things we can't control. And I find it fascinating to understand the perspective that someone takes to shift from the state of agitation because they can't control into a state of acceptance that they can't control. And then what they do once they've reached that state. So how do you transition
from that
from anything negative such as agitation or frustration, a desire for control, and into something more helpful?
How do I transition? Yeah, that's a decent question. Yeah, how transition? I think you said it as well. How do you accept it? I think that's really it. Like you just have to accept it. Sounds like a basic answer as well, but really that's my mindset. Really, to be honest, like if I have to accept it, I have to. I could be agitated, but the only thing I know is to tell, maybe if other people are involved, tell them, hey, this is what's happened. If I can do, let's move around, let's reschedule, da, 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 da. So, yeah, I think it's just about accepting it. Yeah, that's what I can say, accept it. Because again, you could try and force this and get agitated. But I remember like some years ago, like, again, this comes from some lessons from some years ago. I would get agitated at certain things like quite easily, but my energy levels just go down. My energy levels go down. Your thinking is not necessarily all the way straight because you're agitated. You know, you're not thinking as clear as you could be. So over that time, I just learned to, accept what can and can't be. To be honest, like, because again, your energy is important. You know, your mental state is important. You got to keep it calm and,
and carry on. Yeah,
you got to keep it calm with the water, as still as this water.
I love that's beautiful. You said your energy levels would shift and would go down. How did that manifest? How did you notice that?
After you get agitated. After you get agitated, obviously it's a stress reflex.
Stress response.
Stress response. Right, there you go. Stress response. So obviously when you're stressed, you got a lot of cortisol, high blood pressure and everything like that. You're actually in that state of mind, you're actually using a lot more energy than it should be, realistically. Using a lot more, everything's up here, and that drains you, man. That drains you. Like even if you see someone that's angry in general, like not angry in general, but angry over a situation. If he goes past a certain stage, you'll realize that after he's been angry or he's let it out, you realize that it takes a bit of time to balance again and reach back to where he actually would be normally. So I think that's the energy level, the energy drop that I'm talking about, because it's too much stress, too much cortisol. It's bad for the body, it's bad for the blood.
On a chemical level,
the
absolutely. Have you seen these the analogy that I've read a few times is, let's say there's a lion chasing a gazelle on the savannah, and the gazelle goes and runs away.
Right.
And it gets away successfully. It's safe, it's fine. What you'll observe many animals doing is, and you even see this with like dogs, they'll do this little shake.
Shake
it, and then they just go back to grazing like it was nothing.
Right.
Because they build up this chemical, they got rid of the chemical, boom.
Now they're fine.
They're fine. And that's what we did for a long time until the modern day, where we have to act a certain way within a society.
Right.
And that way means that the chemicals, the cortisol, can still build up, but there's nothing burning it off. So the body just kind of eats itself away, trying to get rid of this chemical that we're not getting rid of. And that takes up energy.
Yeah,
and then so your energy level drops and you get tired.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
The reason why I find the way you put it so interesting is because most people will just say, I got tired.
Right.
But I've started to really see energy as a resource that we have, and we are these energetic beings.
100%.
And so if our energy levels are down, like I know when I'm like, my energy is really dense today, which sounds really dumb to a lot of people. But I can feel it. I'm heavier, I'm whatever. And I know people will treat me differently, and then I'll treat them differently. And so maybe I'm more quiet. And it manifests as just being tired.
Can you ever, when you're in those states, can you ever, and he said it as well, he said you feel like, not feel like, but sometimes, people may treat you a bit differently. When you've been in those states before, like what sort of signs were you seeing where people may not have been, treating you the same, where they're maybe a bit more standoffish because you were standoffish,
maybe. So it can be that where it's very straightforward, physical, right? I feel a bit shit, so I don't smile at people as they walk past, or someone bumps into me and I'm like, whatever, and I'm getting whatever. It's very physical to physical.
Yeah.
What I've noticed more for myself, maybe this is just with the way I show up or what, but for me, it's less that. It's more when I'm in a great mood.
Right.
I'm smiling at people more, and the world just seems to feed back that. So a total stranger will be nicer to me. I've been nice to someone else.
Yeah.
They've been, and then a total stranger's been nice to me. It's like those people had nothing to do with each other. But it's just you attract the energy you are. So I remember when I was a kid, my dad told me a funny story of something he tested out when he was younger. Imagine like a really crowded like marketplace, like a street food market or whatever, and it's like really crowded. Yeah, you're in central London, you're at Whitecross Street, it's really crowded. You're just trying to get through. You make yourself angry within. You think angry thoughts. You start to give off angry energy, and then you just march down the street. And what he noticed is people would just part around him, like the Red Sea was parting around him. And this is the thing, and people pick up these bits of energy. Now, I have really strongly come to feel. Test it.
Now help me get through London quicker.
Absolutely. Well, but you might pay a different price, because now you're giving off an angry energy signature. And I've come to really strongly feel that we receive more of what we are, that we get more of what we give, right? As within, so without. So when I know when I can show up in a better mood, and I know when I'm in a low mood or I'm a bit angry or a bit frustrated, I tend to keep that more within because I don't want to give it to other people. 100%. But I know my energy signature is a bit shit. And so I will then try to take some time out, at least reset it a little bit.
What do you do to try and
personally, I will do a little mini meditation. If I'm on the train, it's the easiest because the train's moving. I don't have to. So, you close your eyes, focus on my breathing, and I've started to focus on the heart. Thinking about the heart, keeping your intentionality on the heart and the strongest emotions that come from the heart.
Is it like, emotional? I thought you was even talking about the heartbeat, maybe.
Yes, that too. Physical. It's really a whole existence experience. So it's the physical, the spiritual, and the emotional all tied up. So the focus on the heart, this is what ancient like energy practices would be. And I'd say ancient, even modern yogic practices are, it's like if we've got different energy centers and we've got our heart center, in kind of ancient Chinese teaching, which has made its way into things like Tai Chi and Qigong, you've got the Dantian, so the energy centers. We've got our middle Dantian, which is here.
7 chakras.
And then then in Hindu and yogic traditions, you've got our 7 chakras. And again, we have the heart. So in all these different traditions, you've got the heart center. So to me, the heart center, we can focus on it, we can create space. We actually have a lot of data now. There's a book that's actually, it used to be up behind where the camera is. It's not. I've taken it down. It's behind me now because I'm re-going through it. It's called Becoming Superhuman by Joe Dispenza. And so he's really interesting because there's a few people now that have gone through and they essentially have mapped the way that using science, whether it's ESGs or brainwave scans, whatever,
Right.
to map what happens when we do meditations or prayers, what people would call prayers and meditations, to focus on these energy centers and what we do with them. And you can have really transformational experiences in a really short space of time. So if you think like the basic meditation stuff, things like, mindfulness and breathing and body scanning, and then you combine that with deeper focus on the heart sensor, see it expand, feel the emotion, and then so what you're focusing on is love, wholeness, connection, gratitude. Love, wholeness, and gratitude are probably the three strongest, and the three most like recommended that you focus on these in this heart center, and it can really raise your energy level. And it might, for me personally, I'm not in a place where give me 5 minutes and I'm a totally new person at any time of the day. But it is a bit like a habit where you do get more and more used to it. For me, if I do that, I end the day a bit better, and then I get a good night's sleep, and I do it first thing in the morning. Then I'm a new person. So it doesn't take that long, but I do have plenty of, especially recently, plenty of moments where it's like I feel a bit, and I know my energy's a bit off, and I don't want to give that to other people. So
I hear it.
What are your techniques? How do you get through it?
Pretty much similar to you, actually. Meditation is definitely one. Another thing as well is listen to some high vibrational music. So when I say high vibrational music, I mean, so you got things like a Mapiano, it's Afrobeats, reggaeton, where the beat is, it's just lively, I should say. Beat is lively. The bass isn't too deep, you've got, it's almost like I'd actually love to show you another time as well. There's quite a few songs I think you'd like as well.
Okay.
But essentially, that type of music obviously does brings a bit of a dance, brings a bit of a groove when you're sitting down on the train or anywhere, right? So I like to listen to that type of music, especially when I am feeling maybe a bit angry or just a tiny bit stressed or whichever. One thing I did realize as well is that listening to music like hip hop. It depends which type of hip hop. Some is a bit aggressive, some is calm. Some is how do I say it? Like thoughtful. Some is anecdotal, but a lot of the frequencies that you hear in hip hop are very low frequencies.
Yes.
And I only started realizing how low frequency they were when I started to pay more attention to my own energy levels. Right. So when I would listen to hip hop and stuff, or maybe let's just call it a bit more aggressive music. It was when because I train, right? So I do Muay Thai. So before I go to Muay Thai, I make sure to have the songs with the biggest bass, the longest 808s. And that's obviously because it will get me in a mood ready to strike, ready to train hard, and which I think there's still a good thing, within that. But then again, to have that type of music being listened to every single day, every single minute of your journey or whichever, that's not good for you, man. It's not good for you, man.
Music
be getting angry for no reason. You're thinking about all these other different things. It's like it's not good for the energy, man. Music vibrations is a key thing as well. And
how did you go about discovering firstly, just how much vibrations affected you? I think I think this is the thing that we are maybe most exposed to and understand the least as a general population. If you think about just how often we have music in our ears, we have Spotify in our ears wherever we go, blah, blah, blah. But how often am I thinking, what is this track doing to me right now? And actually, the low vibration, high vibration, how do I even know? Because the vibration, the pitch, the bass, these are all very different things. Something can be loud and feel energizing, but actually just be making you angry or making you depressed somehow. And you're like, how is this working? How did you figure it out?
I don't think I figured it all the way out. That's for sure. Definitely haven't. I've just been looking into research, thinking about my own body, my own, responses to what I listen to and what I don't listen to. But then I've started to also look at, I don't know what teaching it is, but do you know about Tibetans?
Buddhism.
Tibetan monks, right? Yeah. So a lot of I would say a lot of soundtracks I listen to before I go to sleep would be that type of music. And every time I do put on that type of music, immediately there is a bit of a sense of calm. It's like, okay, well, you know, the tones are lower, smoother, the frequency is mellow. It's hard to describe without me playing it right in front of you, but maybe afterwards we can listen to a little something. So I've only just begun looking at, you know, how this can affect me. And I've also realized that 3 months ago, for example, 3 months ago, I was listening to a lot of hip hop every day, whichever. And I was focused though, don't get me wrong, I was focused. Definitely focused, like, you know, go, hustling, everything. Definitely what sometimes where you needed to, you know, get yourself up in the morning sometimes. But then I realized my face actually changes when I listen to that music.
Oh, how did you figure out? Did you see it or did you feel it?
I felt it, and then a couple times, a couple people would even joke me and ask me if I'm all right.
That is fascinating.
So my facial expressions would actually change while I'm listening to certain music. So after I realized that, I was like, okay, hold on.
What's going on here?
What's happening? Hold on. Like, okay, so maybe this is obvious. This obviously affecting me subconsciously. Obviously, it's doing something. It's even changing my facial expressions there. If it's changing my facial expressions, that means everyone else can see it around me. And then that means everyone else has picked up what my energy is as well. And then it kind of relates back to what we said like 5 minutes ago as well, with putting your energy out, how it receives to the world and everything.
That is fascinating.
So that was my revelation. But I'm still in the research phase. I'm still in the research phase. So I'm really trying to get to the bottom of it. Because like I think a lot of people could do it, you know, understanding a bit more about frequencies and stuff like that.
Yeah. This is the fun and also the challenge with like the biohacking movement.
Biohacking. It's like called biohacking, yeah.
What you're kind of describing is the biohacking movement.
Right.
Where it's like whole health.
Right.
So that every single aspect of your health can positively affect your biology.
Right.
Improve lifespan, improve how you operate, how you think. And
if
you think like
food as well, isn't it? Like
food's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And in our society, avoiding poisonous things is probably the biggest part of it as well. It's like it's so easy to consume food that's bad for you without you knowing. You could think you're eating something healthy, or you think something's like fine, but it's got ingredients in it that aren't great, or you know you're exposed to some kind of toxic chemical somewhere, and then what most people don't talk about is the frequencies, is music, but that's part of your holistic experience of being a person too. It's just, it's like, it's kind of overwhelming just how much you would have to control for. No, it's fine. Just how much you would have to control for if you wanted to get really detailed about performing at your best and being your healthiest.
It's true, because there's a lot of factors to think about, as you mentioned. So I think it definitely can be difficult to juggle all of those.
You're hustling right now. You're hustling, you're grinding, you're building your business.
Yeah, I have been for 5 years.
How do you balance that? And especially for that whole 5-year period. How do you go about doing the things you need to do and still keeping yourself healthy and sane in the way you just described, right? When there's only so much you can do, you know.
In one word, well, 2 words actually. Definitely God. I'm a Christian. My belief in God, prayer, and then 2 on the side as well. I do a lot of research into other philosophies as well. A lot of philosophers, ways of life. You know, you got Zen. You know the Zen on the Buddhism side. And then another philosophy that I pretty much definitely do take up on a day-to-day basis, Stoicism. So Stoicism is pretty much one of the key, the philosophies that did, you know, really turn the key for me in my life, to be honest.
Really?
Because again, when I spoke to you about, you know, when I was 19, going out, you're trying to, you want to push for this, push for that. That was my mentality, push for this, push for that, keep on going, put your foot on the gas 100%. That was literally all I knew. But then I found Stoicism. The teachings there was what pretty much taught me that a lot of things in life you can't control, and you have to just do what you can do what needs to be done. But then, you can't always expect the ideal result all the time. And at the end of the day, life always throws curveballs, always throws baseballs, golf balls, everything at you. Can't always catch them. So instead of, trying to worry about every single ball that's flying, I hope you're following the analogy. Instead of trying to catch every ball that's flying, you catch the one that's right in front of you that you can actually grab onto. So I think it's Stoicism, and I think a lot of people could learn a lot from Stoicism as well.
I've got meditations up behind you as well.
300, the Daily Stoic.
No.
Or Marcus Aurelius.
Meditations.
Good. I'm reading that one as well.
And
I think that one's
I like this ball juggling analogy because if I were to add something to it, I would say it's not just about grabbing the ones you can. It's also about the ones that are meant to be for you.
True.
So how often are we seeing it can be challenging to know. How often do we see another person succeeding in a thing that we like or we think we want?
Right.
And that's not a thing that's meant for us. Something else or some other success is meant for us. Let me try to be successful in this business or in this career. But actually a totally different business or career or life path is what's meant for me. We chase what's meant for someone else instead of becoming more of who we are. We focus on what we're not instead of becoming more of who we are.
More of who we are. But then again, the next question is, how do you know who you are? Right?
I've got a way of cutting through the noise on that one.
I think I've got a decent one as well. To be honest, I'm still finding it out because I'm still young, man. I'm still young. I think I know what my essence is. When I say essence, when I say what the core is. Like, I think I still know what the core is, but I wouldn't say I know exactly, myself in all situations, because of course there's so many situations I haven't even encountered. But yeah, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts actually, because I know, but you're a decent amount older than me. I'm not calling you old. But I'm just saying you're a bit older than me,
How old
right?
are you?
So I'm 24.
Okay, I'm not that much older than you, though.
Well, you're still older than me, so you've got more experiences than me.
Sure.
So I definitely would like to hear.
Well, so one quick thing on age, I came to believe a long time ago, because I also, like you, have been in a lot of situations where, like, I'm the youngest person in the room. People can't tell how old I am, etc. I very quickly came to believe when I was younger that it doesn't matter how much time we have. It matters what we do with that time. You can get people who, they're in their mid-40s and they're going through midlife crisis. The reason why is because between the age of 18 and 45, they tunnel visioned. Everything was tunnel vision, and it was something someone else told them they should do. And they go, oh my God, what have I been doing with my life?
Yeah.
And if instead you use that 20 years very consciously and actively, that's where you get people who have sold a business and are multimillionaires in their 20s. Right. It's just how conscious and present and aware were you? So I don't think it matters how old you are in this case when we talk about these things. Yeah. And likewise, you could ask someone who's twice your age and they could tell you something totally unhelpful because they might have just snoozed through a lot of that life. So time is a limited resource, but we accelerate and amplify our usage of it through conscious awareness through that time. That's my perspective. Yeah, one of those things. So with that, and one of the ways I do this, I have a number of rules for my life. Right. So I have
do's and don'ts.
Things I should constantly do, ways I want to be and show up. Okay. And to answer that question you just asked is, how do I do this, or how do I think about who we are? Rule 12 is we are our actions.
Right.
So act like the person you want to be, and you might just realize you've become them.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
And so to me, one of the things I realized, like episode 3 of this podcast, we had this conversation with the guest, Austin, and we were talking about confidence and how we gain more confidence.
Right.
And it was essentially, he made this great point. That's actually a really good point. I haven't thought about that. Well,
Self-confidence, obviously self-confidence, and then even maybe outward achievements as well.
So that's the thing is, how do you build self-confidence without it being arrogance? My answer to that is evidence. And this was Austin's answer, which was really interesting too, is evidence. And that's where achievement comes in.
Is arrogance more of an attitude though?
What do you think?
I think arrogance is an attitude. I think I think arrogance is definitely an attitude. Arrogance is like maybe coming from a place where obviously you think you know everything. And even if you do know everything in a field, it's still, that bravado, that maybe that condescending tone here and there, to maybe a couple of people who may not know as much. I think arrogance is definitely more of an attitude thing, and I think self-confidence can be shown definitely more through humbleness than arrogance. Because let me give maybe a quick story.
Please.
So a couple of years ago, on a little night out or whichever, right? Obviously, you might have a couple of people that are a bit drunk, okay, cool. So there was three guys. I was with a friend. There was 3 guys, right? And the guy who was in front of us, like he was wearing orange. I remember he had like this bowl cut. And he was loud. He was loud, right? He was really, really, really loud. And the friends around him were a little bit loud as well. Like they were giving it the big and pumping their chest. Oh, I'm this, oh, I'm that. Oh, I can do this. I can do. Anyone messes with me, I was me and my friend were like, all right, well, you do what you do, right? And it turns out he tried to do the exact same, bravado attitude to another group of people. They weren't having it. Next thing you know, this loudmouth who was talking all of this, talking all of that, yeah, he had no substance. He had no heart. He ended up, unfortunately, getting pretty beat up, which is unfortunate. But hey, he started the beef, right? But he was coming from a place where he was so insecure that he wanted to put on the biggest show. And obviously that show was a bit of arrogance to me, definitely a lot of ego. So I think arrogance is coming from a place of, it's definitely an attitude of, attitude of insecurity, I'd say.
Louder people tend to have more to prove.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And, so this is interesting because to me, we build confidence by building evidence. And when we have evidence, that evidence is our actions. And if our actions are who we are, we then know who we are based on those actions. One of my rules is...
You need to say that again for the audience, because that was amazing.
Okay, so this is the chain of thought, is when you ask the question, who are you? Who am I?
Yeah.
We are our actions.
100%.
So...
we need that evidence that shows your actions, which then shows you who you are.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It then becomes your responsibility to build up the bank of evidence that is proof of those consistent actions, so that no one else can tell you who you are and who you aren't. To me, that's like being around so many entrepreneurs in London, and I think British culture makes it even worse. We get a lot of imposter syndrome. Right. A lot of people, especially first-time founders, they feel a lot of imposter syndrome. Am I meant to be here, et cetera, et cetera? I think the culture makes it even worse. Well, imposter syndrome means you're an imposter. How would you know if you're an imposter or not? Right. If you're meant to be there. How do you know if you're meant to be there? Action. If you have a bank of proof that is like, this is undeniable
Yeah.
that I am this person.
Yeah,
Because
no,
here's all the action.
yeah, no one can tell you anything after that.
No one can talk to you. Whereas someone who needs to do all the talking,
Yeah.
someone who needs to tell and tell and tell and never shows, is someone who is so caught up in the ego that needs to prove it is powerful,
Right.
and the ego body gets your physical body beat up.
Right.
Like you just described.
Literally. The way you've described this for the past like 2 to 5 minutes, I'm gonna clip it myself.
Nice.
Once you release this,
Nice, man.
I'm gonna clip it myself.
I
'Cause
appreciate
that's
that.
actually amazing. Literally.
And
I
so
think people don't actually understand as well that you are some of your decisions as well, isn't it? So you might speak to, and I don't mind speaking to like random people, like even if they're drunk or whichever, I'll speak to them. But some people will talk to me and they'll tell me, I'm not where I want to be. Life may need to change, or all these other things, right? You just ask them, okay, so what are you doing? What are you doing about it? Maybe they say nothing. Maybe they say they've tried this. Maybe they tried that. But there's always a bit of an excuse as opposed to looking internally and saying, I actually haven't done this or I haven't made that change. Because again, as you said, you are the sum of your actions. And sometimes people don't understand that. People still have a victim mentality thinking that, oh, it's not my fault, it's this person, or it's that system, or it's this. Yeah, I think a lot of people are allergic to accountability.
Ooh, I like that. People are allergic to accountability.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I wanted to take one quick sec to talk about a new partner that I am so excited to announce I have on the show, an agency called Untapped. Untapped exists to put your brand in the world's pocket with beautifully crafted, high-impact mobile experiences. They've worked with brands like Barclays, EA Sports, American Express, and even the UK government. They're known for creating powerful apps with intuitive, seamless interactions that drive customer engagement and elevate brand recognition. But it isn't just tech development. Their expertise is bridging phenomenal quality technology with beautiful design to create the highest quality product possible that takes your users on a real journey with you. You may remember Will, the founder of Untapped, from episode 13 of the podcast. If you haven't heard that chat, I highly recommend it because it shows you what kind of no-nonsense, sleeves-rolled-up kind of people he and the team he's built really are, and it reflects in the kind of work that they do. They want to make their clients' work recognized across their industries and drive real game-changing value, something I've personally experienced and appreciated working with them myself. For businesses who want to take this next step in their journey, Untapped can help with everything from tech creation to brand design to product marketing and so much more. All right, the links are down below. Check it out. And now back to the episode. Where does responsibility play into this equation?
Where's responsibility?
Yeah, because you've got accountability and you've got responsibility. It's two different things.
Yeah, that's true. Wow. Okay. Where does responsibility play in this? I think if you're not responsible for anything, you can't be held accountable for anything either. So therefore,
oh, I love this.
People might need to just give themselves a responsibility if they don't, I have to think about that,
This is fascinating to me because what I realized, I was reading recently, someone was basically like ripping on people who just take a lot of responsibility only because you go, I'm responsible for this, I'm responsible for this, but no one holds them to account.
Right.
So the level 0 is taking no responsibility, placing blame either on yourself or on other people.
Right.
on other things, systems, etc., like you said,
Yeah.
because blame is easy, it's emotional,
Yeah.
and it doesn't require me to do anything differently. Like there's a meme
True.
that was going around of two people at a front desk
Yeah.
and a long line.
Okay.
And desk, so there's two people at a desk, each with a different sign over their head.
Yeah.
Sign number one, people who want to change. Sign
Okay.
number two, people who want to change.
Right.
And the entire line is going to people who want change. No one, there's this whole long line, no one in the line for who wants to change. Right now, I'm American, and right now we've just had the US election. We know Trump is coming back.
Do you wanna
the whole world's laughing at us.
On this podcast?
We can.
I'm an American citizen too.
Are you?
Yeah,
oh, interesting.
Born in Chicago,
we can do. How do you know that? Okay, we need to go into your background. Normally, that's the first thing I do, and we skipped over it today. But we're gonna go back into it. But anyway, a lot of people, especially over here, are like, Trump. My position is, I don't really. Sounds really. I think this can sound arrogant, and I don't mean this in a like I don't care about politics way. But I didn't care much about who got elected.
Right.
Partly because I wasn't in love with any option that we had, but partly because it isn't going to change my life enormously.
Right.
It's going to change all of our lives on the macro.
Right.
But if you want to succeed in business, you got to do it regardless of who gets voted in.
Yes, right.
If you want to succeed in your career, you got to do it regardless of who gets voted in.
Yeah.
If a policy is going to come in place that one person is going to make it slightly harder, cool. You still got to get your shit. No amount of blaming them.
Make a way around it, yeah.
The amount of blaming them is ever going to, it's always going to be up to you. For a chunk of my career, I worked with underrepresented founders and underrepresented entrepreneurs in the UK, much less likely to receive funding, much less likely for a VC to give them some bullshit excuse, all kinds of things. And so many of these founders, they were like, look, we know that there's problems. I don't care. I want solutions because I need to build my business now. Yeah. There's no point in waiting 10 years for the system to get more equitable. I need to build my business now. And so I need to ignore 100%. All this shit. It just means I need to work harder.
100%.
And to me, like things like the election are the same. That is when you level up from blame into responsibility. The next level above that, if that's level 0, then level 1. Level 2 is having someone, and that person could be yourself, be accountable to the thing you've taken responsibility for. It's great to say like, oh, that's on me. Like I'm responsible for that. And then never actually put the change in place because there was no accountability to see, okay, well, you noticed this, you are responsible for it, but did you ever do anything about it? That's what you just said is fascinating.
That is right. That's why I don't think you can have any accountability with no responsibility.
And this is the thing, is so what that means is that the second you place accountability on someone, including yourself, you're demanding responsibility from them. So I wonder if the fastest way for us to take control of our own lives is to create some kind of accountability system for ourselves. Whether 100%. We're using other people, such as like in your case, you could use your co-founder, or someone could use a partner or a parent or a close friend, or even themselves. If you only use yourself, it can break down a little bit, but some kind of accountability system. And that forces you to also take responsibility because you can't take accountability. You can't have accountability without having responsibility.
I think I definitely agree with you. I do think sometimes there's some overcomplications with it too. Yeah, some people may want a person around you or whichever. I'm not really the type of person to, call on someone to keep me accountable. I just take out my to-do list and write it down. And that's how I know what I need to do. You know what I mean? Nice. That's how I know what I need to do. But 100%, people need some sort of accountability. I think even accountability groups are good. Accountability groups are good. But then again, some people fall into still that victim mentality of when you do have a accountability group, maybe someone in the group falls off and then they think that's an excuse or a chance for them to also fall off. And I think it all comes from that internal fortitude to want that change, to want to keep consistent, to want to maintain where you are, wherever that is where you are. I think it all comes from internal fire, is what I call it, internal fire. If you don't have that internal fire, I promise you, no accountability group will do anything for you. Like no accountability group will do anything for you. That's what I think, to be fair.
How do you light the fire?
How do you light the fire? Damn. How do you light the fire? Oh, yeah, everyone's different, so I can't explain. But for people who are like me, our fires are lit by our desires. Our fires are definitely lit by responsibility to even just take care of your friends, family, even if they are a bit more affluent than you. It's coming from a point where anything can happen in this world, isn't it? And because of that, you got to make sure that you're in as good of a position as you can be so that you can deal with whatever is to come. I might speak to some people about that philosophy and they'll tell me, that's a bit extreme though, don't you think? Because, the world's not going to end today, or this isn't really going to happen, is it? It's like, okay, do you think the guys in Japan before that tsunami came thought that? Yeah, see what I'm saying? You think the guys in Hawaii thought that everything, do you thought they would think that that fire wouldn't come and ruin like half of the country? They didn't know that. But if you're smart, if you're forward thinking, if you're, how do I say it? What's the word? If you're smart, if you're forward thinking, and you, I forgot the word, so I'm not going to try and force it.
Describe it.
But if you're,
see if you can figure it out.
Okay, let's see. If you're forward thinking. So basically, if you're realistic about the world, you know that so many things are out of control. You know that there's this thing called nature that can go up and down regardless. And there's so many other people in this world whose actions can affect yours. If you gotta be wise enough to know that not every day is gonna be a good day. It's like there's the not every day is gonna be a good day. So the fool is the person who doesn't try and save money for a bad day. The wise person is the one who saves some money for a bad day. Just to give one little example, little story. So that's what I'm trying to encompass. I don't know what that word is, but
Acceptance.
You see what let's call it, acceptance. Accepting what the world is. Accepting what factors can and can't be and what possibilities are. Like there's always a possibility that something's gonna go left. And for me, I don't want to be in a situation where my loved ones have to get affected by, any situation that may befall us. So I think it's better to take it upon yourselves to get in a position where you're actually able to help the next person.
There's a sense of freedom I feel when we're describing this personally.
100%.
Which is really ironic when you think about like taking responsibility is challenging and it's scary because suddenly I'm the one who needs to do something.
Yeah.
My reframe on this has been for a long time now. Great. That means I know I can do something.
Yeah.
When it's out of your hands, you are a slave to whatever the world is going to throw at you.
Yeah.
You're a slave to your moods. You're a slave to the perspectives that people in power have that they just kind of put onto you. Here's the policies, here's the things, and it's just, and then your happiness is totally determined by someone else.
Yeah.
Whereas when you know it's determined by you, you have a freedom to choose
literally
and do something about it.
Exactly.
And that is just so empowering to me.
Freedom, we put the nail on the head right there. That's another thing I always talk and preach about as well.
Do you think
freedom for yourself, freedom for your loved ones, freedom to do what you need to do, not be slave to other factors that you can't control. Have the choice, have the options. The options. It's the options. Yeah. Have the options. Have the options.
What do you think someone needs to do to make the shift from being in that defensive, limited, more victim mentality into this one that's very much taking what I would call extreme ownership?
I think responsibility and
feeling free.
responsibility and accountability.
Okay.
I think that's definitely the step forward. But I'll give you an example, right? This actually relates back to that underrepresented founder thing that you was talking about. When I was young, I would have, for example, my mom say, my mom would say to me that you can't, that certain hairstyles won't run when you get older because, it's not this, it's not professional, it's not this, whichever. And I always used to say, but what if my skills are what if my skills are A plus? What if my skills are A plus? They're not going to hire me because of my hairdo. Are you sure? She goes, yeah, because the way the world works like this, it's not always this, it's not always fair, it's not always this. So I kind of grew up thinking that, okay, there's actually a possibility that obviously my mum could be right, obviously. It's my mum. But there's a possibility that she could be right. And obviously I did take a few of those excuses with me. So I might have had a couple of L's, I might have had a couple of losses. And it was very easy for me to just say, I didn't get in because I was black. No. I was the only black person there. Nah, there's no way I'm getting in. It was so easy to throw that card, throw that victim mentality card out there. I think it's still prevalent today. I think a lot of people still do that, but either way, we'll leave that out. But it was too easy to throw out that card. And it wasn't until I was like, okay, you know what? Let's take a step back now. Let's actually take a step back. What are the things I did leading up to it? Or leading up to that loss that I experienced? What were the things that led up to it? Okay, maybe I didn't get the job because I had actually come in 5 minutes late. Maybe I didn't get that result that I wanted, or maybe I didn't get that investor because I'm a novice with 6 months of experience, with no app, with no fundraising experience, no network. Cool. So they didn't give me investment. It makes sense. Would an investor look at someone with bright ideas, 19 years old, talking about they're building a £100 billion business? It's not very likely. So when you actually look at the numbers, you look at the facts, you look at the likelihoods, probability, I'm an engineer. At heart, at least, more of a salesman now. But you look at the probabilities of these things, look at the actions as well, and you think, okay, what outcome is this person looking for? If it is an investor, what outcome is he looking for? What's the likelihood that you can get him that outcome? Maybe it's that job. Okay, what's the likelihood? You see what I'm saying? So there was other things that I had to look at and actually say, what else could have been improved on for me to get the result I wanted? And that's where I started to go dive into self-help books, dive into learning more, go into networking events in order to experience more, learn more, and obviously network. Gain more knowledge through the association of others who've been there and done that. And that's where I started to realize, the victim mentality is nothing but putting yourself in a box. You put yourself in such a box, and it's so easy to get comfortable in that box. That box has a memory foam mattress. It has a memory
Flat
foam
screen
mattress
TV,
there.
a
You get
PS5,
flat screen TV. It's
yeah.
got the Ben and Jerry's cookie dough ice cream there. It's comfortable.
It's
comfortable. And obviously I was like, I could stay in this box all I want. I can continue blaming other people, but if it's never going to work. And the one thing that I also matched with that is the fact that I grew up doing a lot of sports. I grew up doing sprinting, rugby, mainly sprinting, although I love rugby, but mainly sprinting. Sprinting is a solo sport. So when it comes to sprinting, the work that you put in behind closed doors is really, really what matters. It's not a team sport where you can maybe hide behind the star player and he does this, he does that, and passes the ball, and then you might get the win. You might get the assist or whichever. It's not like that. If you don't put in the work by yourself, for yourself, you are not getting that personal best. You are not getting that gold, that silver, whatever it is you're aiming for. So when I put that mentality over the things I just said in terms of, looking at what I can be accountable for, what I can be responsible for, and my own actions, I was like, I immediately I thought, this game of business, it's like training for a race. You have to put in work behind closed doors. You get your time to shine, whether that's a pitch, whether that's a meeting or whichever sales meeting. And that's your time to shine. That's your time to run the sprint. If you don't put in the work behind closed doors, you will never get to actually, do it. You never get to win the race. You see what I mean? So putting those two together was what really helped me change, really break away from any type of victim mentality that may or may not befall me. To the point now where someone in my team might make a mistake really quick and I'll be like, oh, sorry, my bad. I actually probably should have told you that. And it's true. I probably should have mentioned something because, I'm here. I've been doing this like by myself for a bit. If I'm bringing on someone new, I should at least let them know something. So that hyper accountability is what then it just yeah. I feel like I'm rambling, but
I think you're right.
Say.
This is fascinating to me because it's only when you could compare it to not having. So you had both. You had do it yourself and have a team. You had when I had the victim mentality and when I had the creator mentality. You had the blame and you had the taking responsibility.
Right.
And so you can see the difference between the two and notice what the effects are. And those effects aren't just the results in the physical world. There'll be those energetic things we talked about in the beginning too.
100%,
so
100%.
You had both. I wonder if sometimes all that people need to understand how great it is to take ownership of your own life is to taste that sense of freedom that you have when you get it. Oh, I feel so much better when I haven't just eaten shit. Oh, I feel so much better that I'm the one who decided what my day would look like and how I would feel that day. Okay, it took some time to set the routine in place, but I feel so much better now that I have the routine that works for me. Whatever it is, it sounds a little bit like top down. What's the word? Prescriptive. It sounds a little bit prescriptive and judgmental. And I really do mean this in a non-judgmental way because a lot of us go our lives without realizing this. And a lot of us, I think, accidentally stumble on it. Some of what you did was actively noticing it. Some of it was, oh, I just happened to realize this. And that's okay. Sometimes it takes, oh, shit, I didn't think about this before. Now I know.
Exactly.
As long as you don't obscure it or forget it or leave it. You 100%. Actually think about it. Sometimes that's what it takes. So normally I start with this a lot earlier in the episode, but we went into a bunch of really interesting things. And I think now it's even more important to understand who you are, right? You asked, how do you know who you are? And I kind of said actions. When I talk about this question, I really mean what's your story? Where did you come from? How did that affect who you are now? You've alluded to some of these things, but paint us a picture of the timeline of your life that's led to who you are now.
Timeline, wow. Now I'm gonna have to go really high level. To who I am now, I'm gonna have to go high level, really. But okay,
you can go as high or as deep as you want to. I know you were born in Chicago. I know that now.
Yeah. I was. I moved here when I was 4 or 5. My mum and brother. Dad still lives over there. I have a great relationship with them right now as well.
Good.
But over the years, I think I'm gonna start at year 10. Because from year 7 to 9, or even a bit of year 10 as well, I was getting into a tiny bit of trouble. Small bits of trouble for foolish things, really. Messing about and maybe playing rough and whichever, arguing with teachers and stuff like that. I wasn't serious. I wasn't serious. And we had our mocks, our mock exams in year 10. I was always good at maths, so maths I got an A. Right? Sciences were at that time, I think I got some C's. So the maths was my only top one, really. Everything else was C's, D, 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 E, 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 E. So I was like, okay, right. This obviously can't run. I obviously can't. I obviously can't let
You
this.
you
let
took
this
that
move
home
on.
to your mom. You
Yeah.
terrified of what would happen.
So it's on my, obviously told it to my dad. Obviously, it wasn't the first like bad report that I'd gotten, but
Sure.
I was like, I thought to myself, this isn't what I'm capable of. Like this isn't my highest. Like this isn't my peak. This isn't my peak because I didn't. I put in no effort, and it's like me putting in no effort at that time, expecting A stars. Doesn't make sense. So from that moment, I was like, okay, cool. I actually have to actively put in a bit of effort onto learning, revising, and all of this. So I took that accountability, responsibility upon myself. So I continued to do it, continued to push forward. And again, I was doing athletics all the way from like year 7 all the way through this. So that mentality as well was like, okay, this is training now. Not physical, mental training in terms of the education now. Let me take these same philosophies I use on the track and let me bring it into this educational world. And then that's where I started to really put in a lot of training behind closed doors, a lot of reading. And I realized that all those grades they were coming back. They were looking a bit more me, more me, to be honest. So from there, I was like, okay, cool. I think that was like the first inkling. I'm gonna say the first inkling when I started realizing that it actually really is about your actions out in this world. Like it really is about your actions and what you do with your 24 hours. Anyway, fast forward now, I take that same mentality with me to college, A levels, doing that. But then this time I went a bit extreme. Like didn't take too much. I don't know. I still went out. I still had fun, whichever. By the way, I love a good party, by the way.
Nice.
But yeah, still went out, still had fun. But whenever it did come to work, it was too much. Like I was pretty much like almost obsessing over the revision and stuff. And obviously that came with its own negatives as well. You know, definitely stress, definitely pressure, unnecessary pressure.
And we know now that at that age,
Yeah.
that kind of stress and pressure when you're still developing, it can have some real serious effects.
Yeah, yeah. I think it really did because when I went to uni, like right after, the stress just carried. Like stress is like it carried on. Couldn't think straight really. Couldn't think straight really, man.
So it caused like some brain fog, you
A
mean?
lot of brain fog. Yeah, I couldn't think clearly. Definitely almost took a 360 and became even more like lazy. Didn't even want to do anything for a while. And I stayed in uni for a while. I continued to push. Continued to study. But then I realized I don't think it was only the stress and pressure, which was why I was feeling that way. I think in general, I ended up realizing in uni that I wasn't really an educational guy like that. I just had really good memory.
Which serves you really well in secondary school because of the way that system works.
Exactly, because the way so it was fairly easy for me to accept. I could apply things as well, but it was different. It was very different at the time. Like, it was very different. Like I could apply the maths. I could also apply everything, but yeah, it was a bit different. But anyway, so now fast forward now. I actually almost forgot where I was. Sorry, I got lost in my trail.
No, it's all right.
My memories.
So you're getting into uni, and I actually wanted to ask you, but see, this is the thing, we never think about these things.
Yeah,
we go,
it's
memory
been
lane.
so long since
I've been writing some
thought
stuff
about it.
recently, and I've been writing some of the stuff that happened to me when I was young down.
Yeah.
It's like, and not in a bad way. It's just like, all this comes back.
Yeah.
So, that period in uni where you described it as almost starting to get lazier again.
Yeah.
Do you think that was like a low mood or depression?
Nah.
No?
Well, nah. I wouldn't say depression. That's when, and yeah, thank you for helping me. That I actually got my thoughts back. That's where I realized that for the past couple of years, I've been doing something that my parents wanted me to do. None of it came from me. It was always them that wanted me to get this grade or to get that grade or whichever. I remember how happy I was in year 70 and 9, messing around and doing whichever. But anyway, yeah. And then when it came to that, I realized that, you know, none of this is what I want to do. They're telling me that, oh, I should go ahead and be a doctor and stuff. I look at the unis and they're telling me I need to do a 7-year course to do that. I was like, do I even want to be a doctor like that? Look at something else. I don't want to do that either. So that was when I started realizing that I'm not in the right place at all. Whether it was, uni, school, college, I wasn't in the right place. And that's when I was like, you know what? I've always had a dream to build and create stuff. So even when I was in uni, I was doing robotic engineering. I was always building my own like projects, building my own little robots, building my own little softwares, my own little projects and stuff. And that's where I excelled at, learning by myself. Now being uni, going to lectures, for them to skip through like a whole topic for me to learn by myself anyway. I said, why am I here? I shouldn't be here. I should be just doing these projects by myself, trying to and try and sell it and make some money. And then that's when I jumped out of uni and realized that, yeah, this really is where I want to be, like on the ground, on the floor, really putting a shift, with my own products, really, with my own creativeness. And then I started to excel a bit. I say excel, that was a bit after that, because when I dropped out of uni, I definitely felt like I was on the lowest of the lows, because obviously I'm really starting from zero. Like no degrees or whichever, I'm starting from zero in terms of even the solution. I had no sales skills or anything. But I knew if I want the results I want, I'm just going to have to go through. The only way is through, isn't it?
And I'm willing to bet you came across this hurdle of, why should we support you? That's from the whole ecosystem, right? Not just investors, but anyone. It's like, if I'm building a robotics business, I would look to have someone on my team or my board who's been through X, university, who has a master's in robotics engineering, or at least a bachelor, exactly what you were doing. Like, I'd look for exactly that.
Right.
And you come out, you're like, I don't have the qualification. I'm just good at the thing.
Yeah.
So how do you prove you're good at the thing when you don't have the product or the qualification? You're really starting from zero. I mean, how did you navigate that?
I started from zero, but I had some evidence of my work. I had some projects. That I could show people what I've done. So there was always a bit of evidence of what I could do. Whether if it was enough for some people, hey, it is what it is. It probably wasn't, which is why I got rejected from a few places. That's cool. But
who rejected you, and how did you eventually break through to whoever said yes first? Like, what was the story of progress there?
I got rejected from quite a few places, man.
And is this investors or anything?
Oh no, this is even when I jumped into doing sales and selling the product.
Okay.
So I started going door to door. I remember my first door to door day. Went down to the first company I started was a health and fitness connection app. So you'd go on their marketplace app. So you go in there, you'd be able to find personal trainers, osteopaths, and book sessions with them directly through the app, right?
Okay.
Definitely seen a couple of those about now. So I would go door to door to different clinics, different gyms, and just be speaking to, the people in charge. And I got rejected a lot. Like, there was just this guy, he came through the door, bare-faced, baby-faced, talking about he's gonna do a product for some of these gym guys. That first day was humbling, man.
Yeah, well,
I slept so good that night. I said it's so good because I was defeated. I was defeated.
Yeah. Look, it's a trial by fire.
Trial by
You
fire.
jumped into the deep end and you were forced to swim.
Yeah, literally. And then I got comfortable with swimming bit by bit. Kept on going to the same places, couple weeks after, different places, different geographies. Started to get a bit more comfortable saying what I needed to say. And then, started to get a few wins. Started to get a few people saying, you know what, let me sign this letter of intent for you. Let me show you that if you release it, I'll use it. I'll trial it. And things started to get a bit better. But it wasn't all good because COVID happened.
Yes, that sounds about right on the timeline. Yeah.
So COVID happened, and then so that company ended up having to stop really because obviously the health and fitness industry was changed rapidly. A crazy hit, to be honest. Like, no gyms were open, obviously, and clinics as well, all of that good stuff. So it was a bit difficult. But then through that, I saw another opportunity, which was to do on-demand grocery delivery within the area that I am because everyone is so isolated. So I said, all right, let's jump into the deep end on this one as well. Let's jump in. So then, so I had some flyers, had some business cards, went around the neighborhood, said, hey, look, if you need some groceries, if you need anything delivered for you from these shops, give me a call, give me a ring. It's what I charge. And then I charge like £152 or something like that per delivery.
You're kidding.
Would
you go manually do it?
I'll be doing it, yeah. I was doing it. Yeah.
Okay, walk me through your logic because I have a whole anecdote about this and I love it. But walk me through your logic. How is that meant to work?
Well, it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't, and I found out that pretty quickly because I was the person obviously doing the admin and doing everything else, and then obviously doing the deliveries as well. So I was like, okay, cool. This is nice to prove the idea. It's nice to prove the idea at least get some sort of traction, some sort of notoriety because of it. But that's obviously not going to scale. Like, I immediately got tired of doing those deliveries. I was like, this is taking up too much time.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, okay, cool. And I might need a network of drivers. Started to connect with some of the delivery drivers and Just Eat drivers that I saw around. Just connected with them saying, hey, look, I'm trying to also build something a bit different from what you're used to with Uber Eats and whichever, obviously for groceries. Started to get them down the line. We had a couple of drivers as well. I knew from then as well, best thing to do was to also have an app as well. App that can take orders, immediately send the order to a person, to a driver, so that they can, do the rest of it. So, did that for quite a while. Did that for these couple months, like good couple months. Even had my co-founder, who's the co-founder of Sorair Technologies now, he had joined me back then, built some of the apps so that we can use that as well. And we ended up getting pretty much pushed out of the market because Uber Eats went on to groceries.
Yeah.
Just Eat, delivery, all that Get Here came into the country.
But then they've left now, but anyway. It's not a defensible kind of business. You wouldn't have had a real moat there. But what I find interesting is a couple of things. One, there's an anecdote I use a lot. I'm pretty sure is in The Lean Startup.
Right.
Which is another book that's right behind you. Yeah. This is the thing. So I put my books behind the guests right there.
Oh, that's a good book.
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch. I love The Infinite Game. I've got there's a bunch above you as well that don't quite make it into
this
the
one
shot.
right here,
the
E-Myth.
Yeah.
This is gold.
See, so almost no one our age knows about this book because it's so old.
My mum actually was the one who showed me that.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I recommended it to someone recently because they wanted to start a business. And it's one of those things where as soon as you hear a business that isn't very scalable, it's going to take a lot of your hours.
Right.
you go, okay, read that book. That's one of the things.
Definitely needs it.
And anyway, this anecdote I use is within the Lean Startup, and it's basically one of these grocery delivery apps.
Yeah.
To test the idea. What they did is they did exactly what you did.
Right.
They went to people's doors, they took their grocery list, they went and they did the shopping, they brought it back, they took the
Right.
check for the delivery, whatever. And they got that down to a system and
Right.
got feedback manually to their faces, etc. They then expanded that out into as many different people as they could.
Right.
And it was only once they had too many customers
Yeah.
to physically be able to handle capacity did they build the app to replace themselves.
Okay.
Because that was the point of testing it out,
Yeah.
manually doing all that stuff.
Of course.
So when I hear what you're doing, I'm hearing a couple of things. One is that you went through that same process in pretty much exactly the same example, where you learned manually, learn, see what happens. Now you got pushed out of the market, but then the second thing that happened is that you now had a relationship with this person who would eventually come on to work with you in your current business, which was also a very different business. I mean, if you think like those first two things you did, and then somehow you made it all the way into Sorair Technologies, which is talking drones and all kinds of stuff.
I'll even give
So
you the connection though.
give me the connection. That's what I want.
When we realized that what we were doing isn't scalable, it's not that profitable as well on the grocery job side. So myself and Ade, see, we're engineers, we were like, okay, you know what? This is very taxing, taxing on, people, energy, taxing on our profit margins. So let's build drones. Let's build drones to deliver goods for us.
Oh, okay, this makes perfect sense. The reason you thought of drones was like, why do we need drivers if we can just get drones to deliver the groceries for us?
Exactly.
And then you became an infrastructure business, building the infrastructure for others that you wanted to have for yourself.
Essentially, yeah.
That is fascinating.
Literally.
Okay.
So that's when the whole Sorair Technologies piece came in. And then obviously I've met you as well when we were pitching as well for the drone delivery idea.
And that would have been early. So when did this pivot take place? That 22?
2021? 2021. Because we'd got a place in Flexor, East London, Barclays, Eagle Labs to do the hardware prototyping and stuff. So 2021 was where we started. So 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now. Time flies. But yeah, so that's what we were doing at that time. So that was the connection we made, really. So it was a good move, great move. Obviously spent some time doing it. Had a bit of investment as well.
Where did you?
Regulations and stuff is not ready.
Yeah, I've heard this from you. You're kind of dealing with a market that isn't where the regulations aren't up to scratch with where we need to get to. But before we get into that, because you're dealing with is a plane going to hit your drone? And obviously it's not. But anyway.
No, you never know because you got general aviation going.
I guess it depends on how high the drones go, how low the planes go.
Exactly, because some helicopters may need to do an emergency landing. Planes may need to do emergency landing.
Yes.
Military might be doing a couple runs as well.
Let's get into this. So, do you think where do you think the regulation's going to need to go? Because it sounds like when you say that, when you say what you just said, I'm thinking we're going to have drone highways.
Yeah,
this is the airspace.
Yeah, there's a few highways. Yeah, there's a few highways already active. Yeah, one is between I think London and Reading, or Slough and Reading.
Is that because of Amazon doing their deliveries with packages? Who is that?
That's more blood delivery, using drones to deliver blood and pharmaceutical, proper emergency pharmaceutical goods.
Okay.
So that's, and rightfully so, that type of application has been given a priority. Mm-hmm. But if you're looking at general final mile, general logistics and things like that, it's not as high on the priority. It's definitely military/medical, everything else.
Okay.
So, yeah. But then again, I do still think it's possible in this country. I think regulators are, and rightfully so again, are a bit hesitant to just be allowing any drones to be flying over so many public roads, public houses. But I do think they need to be a bit less afraid, because the technology's out there. The technology's out there. Technology is sustainable enough. Technology is robust enough for a lot of these things to not occur, in my opinion. But obviously, they have to think about everyone else.
And is that because something like a drone will be able to sense, like, if it's going to hit something or whatever? Like, I have a robot
100%.
vacuum cleaner here. It's parked somewhere around the corner.
Right.
And
it's got some sensors on it.
It's got sensors. It knows where it's going. It knows if it hits something. It knows if it needs to turn. And it's not like it's particularly, by today's standards, it's not particularly advanced. It's like, I can imagine a world where my Amazon parcel gets dropped off right there on my balcony, out the window next to us.
And they've been doing stuff like that in China. Like,
really,
they've been able to make it happen. But I think the reason why it's so difficult here and in America is because everyone, obviously in China, there's like one party controlling everything. So
they can push through whatever they want.
One way for everyone. But in the UK and the US, you got all these different companies that have their own ways of doing things, their own, we'll just call it their own ways of doing things. So because of that, the regulators now have to try and basically almost put these different ways of thinking together in such a way that they can all work together smoothly. It's difficult.
Yeah, you're on the cutting edge of some tech that we're going to see a lot more of.
Oh yeah.
That we're not seeing much of, at least not here in the UK yet. Where do you see tech taking us in the next 10 years? How different would, let's say, London as a city look?
With tech and all the other...
just where tech is going, where the major technologies that because you're going to get a behind the scenes look at things, right? Now that you're VC backed, other tech founders doing like really hardware techy things, not just yourself, who maybe through the VC's portfolio, whatever, you've got more of a founder network, you're working on more things, you're building cool things out at a workshop that we were, or a factory or whatever, that we were going to record this from, it's like you're seeing things that a lot of people probably aren't quite seeing. True. So tell me what you're seeing and where you think that's going to take us as a society.
My, oh my. I think I want to talk about quantum computing first.
So you're going straight into the deep end first.
Because I actually think quantum computing is good.
Okay.
I think things like nuclear power is also good for everyone.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you have a lot, because these things, quantum computing, nuclear power, these are things that could allow everyone to have good access to energy, good access to quick information. And obviously, quantum computing is something I'm even trying to research on the side. Like there's a field that's completely unknown, but the computing power that you would usually have right now, quantum computing exponentially increases that. So imagine the types of calculations, the types of products you can create, the solutions you can create for people. The AI that's actually helpful for people. And I say actually helpful for people because I don't think all AI is good for people at all. I'm seeing a lot of these generative AI things coming out that look very real, a bit too real. And the only thing I think about is, when I see that is another way to control the masses, another way to fool the masses.
That's really interesting. We had a chat episode, I think 13 or something like that, with a good friend of mine, Jeremiah, and he's written a book, and in there he's got a chapter on cancel culture, I believe. And we had this whole part of the chat which was like, imagine what's going to happen to cancel culture when AI could deepfake anyone. Like, it's very close now, and some of them can do it now already. Instagram put in a little thing where you kind of have to air quotes,
You have to-
declare if you've made it with AI, but you don't actually have
You
to.
don't have to.
Like, no, nothing's gonna happen if
Yeah.
it turns out you don't tick the thing or whatever. And even if you do, what if no one sees it or what? It's
Yeah.
just we're not there yet. There's a theoretical world where we've got almost infinite energy
Right.
powering a quantum AGI of some kind.
Yeah.
But is that world realistic
us?
without the downfalls? Or is it good for us?
No, I don't think so.
Really? Okay.
Because wherever you look at it, most of the time it's the minority that has some sort of advantage over the majority, whether that's financially, whether that's resources and things like that. So I think with things like that, you just play more into the hand of the what could be an evil minority.
That's interesting. The technocratic, techno-feudalism. Have you heard this concept of techno-feudalism?
No.
So this is a concept that I don't know if he coined it,
Well,
but
like
it was really made...
ruling by tech, essentially.
Well, kind of. So this is a Yanis... I might be misremembering his name.
He's a basketball player.
No.
Okay.
He's Varoufakis, something like that. He's a
Right,
Greek politician, economist turned politician.
Right.
He's a very socialist economist. But his argument is basically we had feudalism as a system.
Right.
And what that was is the people who owned the land were the people in charge. Then we moved into democracy
makes a bit of sense.
and kind of freedom as we kind of knew it. And it had its downfalls, whatever. Now we're moving from democracy into techno-feudalism, where the people who own the platforms are the ones who have the power. So it was the people who owned the platforms and the platform was land. Now it's the people who own the platforms and the platforms are the social media and the databases and pretty much and like the NVIDIAs and OpenAIs of the world are the only new examples other than the big 5 tech companies. And I heard this point a few months ago, and it's a really good point. And I don't know if it's true, but it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
We had the big 5 tech companies come up over the course of a couple of decades. So Microsoft, Apple, Google, Facebook, and I always forget the 5th.
Netflix?
No.
Well, not
What are
anymore.
No. Actually, they're doing really well. Their stock price is fine. What was the 5th? I'm forgetting the 5th now, but anyway, it's gonna be really obvious when I hear it. But anyway, Apple, I said Amazon. Amazon's probably the 5th. You had these big 5 companies come up, and then anytime you have a tech company that gets big, one of those 5 buys it. So it's impossible to have a 6th big one. Even OpenAI is half owned by Microsoft. So it's kind of its own thing still.
Right.
But what if it gets absorbed by Microsoft entirely one day? They might not do that. Sam Altman might decide not to do that. Sam Altman seems to be one of these really techno optimists. But as a person, pardon?
Sam have a choice.
So it's a good question. I don't know. I think if it was you or I, it might feel like we don't have a choice. He has enough influence as a person to maybe be able to actually have a bit of a choice. We can't know what's going on behind closed doors.
Sure.
The only one outside of these I can think of now is really NVIDIA. And that's because they've 10x or something in the last 6 to 10x in literally 2 years because of the correlation with AI.
Yeah.
And then now we have this system which looks totally different.
Right.
But even then, it's not changing the game that much. So it's going to be the big 5, a couple of extra incumbents depending on where in the world you are, and then NVIDIA is maybe number 6 now. And that's everything is owned by them. And at what point is it what they say goes, as opposed to our governments? Our governments can kind of regulate them, but this is where you see these back and forth battles happening already.
I'm smiling because I'm kind of happy you said that. I think it's already happening now anyway. You've got all these politicians taking donations from these companies anyway, from these billionaires with their own with their own agendas. So in a way, that already is kind of the case. But then you've got, you got people like Donald Trump, who understands that these things are in play. That you've got a lot of people trying to do things at the behest of a corporation. Hell, I think Keir Starmer's doing that exact same thing right now with the farms. And Bill Gates' his best friend. So I think that is really what's going on right now behind closed doors. And they're giving too much power to these corporations. Not only are they giving too much power, you've got politicians who are surrendering their power for the sake of money from these corporations.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I completely agree with that. One thing I would add, though, is I don't think it's new.
It's not.
It's been happening for a while. I think it was Roosevelt who warned us about the military-industrial complex in the U.S. That was decades ago.
That was time there.
I think the only difference between, military-industrial complex, the oil companies, etc., and the stuff we have now is that the stuff we have now are user-facing. They're B2C, they're forward-facing, and they're facilitating our lives and our data. Whereas the oil companies and military-industrial complex, they will take our tax money, but generally speaking, they're behind closed doors, which is bad for different reasons, whereas challenging for different reasons. But at the end of the day, they can't decide tomorrow if the things I see on my feed wire my brain to hate someone who acts a certain way, looks a certain way, or votes a certain way.
Yeah.
Whereas Facebook can engineer me to be more profitable to them.
Social engineering. You gotta think, is it social media or just social engineering?
So there's a theory about this. Have you heard this? Where it's like, so the way the algorithms work, like let's say we're scrolling on Instagram, is whatever I watch more of, it will give me more of because it thinks I like that thing.
Or even if you like it, double tap.
Exactly. So what you engage with is what it gives you more of. Yeah. There's a second theory, or it's less of a second theory and more a second thing that they could be doing, which is, what if the things you like are so multifaceted that it can't put you into easy buckets? So what if it's obvious I only like comedy podcasts, videos, and sports?
Right.
Then they can feed me those two things.
Yeah.
But what if I really like 10 different things?
Right.
It's much easier for the algorithm to keep me on the platform if it sends me the top 2 or 3 of those 10 things that will keep me on the platform more.
Okay. So
if it sends me the things, maybe I really find 10 different things interesting.
Yeah.
One of those things is slightly conspiracy theory-y.
That's just very...
You get what I mean? It has that kind of energy. And then it sends me the most egregious things within that column. And it fills me with fear. It fills me with doubt. It fills me with a really strong opinion about a certain thing. And because of that, I'm watching it more. And then I'm now more afraid. And the next time I scroll, I'm seeing more of it. So in other words, it funnels me into a bucket and starts to engineer me to like that thing more. No, or like is a loose word. To like, indulge in, it's a great word. To have the dopamine hit for that thing. And that way, it doesn't have to understand what I actually want to see. It's given me what I think I want to see because I engage with it. But then it's reverse engineering me to do whatever is useful for it. I think this is why polarization has gotten so bad.
Polarization, what do you mean? You mean the
almost anything.
Divisiveness?
Yeah.
Between
basically anything.
Man, women, blue right, left right.
Exactly. I think like all of these are all examples of exactly that. It's like a healthy society is one where most people are moderates. And they might be a little bit on either way, and they can have conversation. They can have healthy disagreements. What we have, and society does this over and over the course of decades, where it gets more polarized, shit gets crazy, and then it goes more moderate again. We're going towards things getting really polarized because polarization sells. Headlines that keep one side really happy. So that side all reads it and make the other side all hate it. So that side reads it to accuse it, sells much more than let's have a nuanced conversation.
Let's actually have a conversation. I hear it. What you said is facts. What you said is major facts. You know what as well has been very prevalent in that polarization, all this identity politics.
Yes.
all this identity politics, like it seems to me it's just another way. It's just another way of putting an excuse to label something as something else. And then now that you've labeled him as something, you're now gonna box him into you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
You're boxing him into one category instead of allowing him to express himself, because everything is not as black and white as it seems. But this identity politics is just, you're just slapping people in one box. Like I heard through the news that Sadiq Khan was saying the reason why Donald Trump doesn't like him is because he's Muslim, because he's non-white. And I was like, no. But yeah, I think there's a million people in London who can probably say why Donald Trump doesn't like Sadiq Khan, or even why they don't like Sadiq Khan. And it's not because he's Muslim or Asian or whatever it is. Like all these identity politics, labeling people as bigots, labeling people as this, racist that, racist this. It's like it's another victim, not victim mentality thing, but I mean like another cop out.
Yeah.
It's another easy way to just...
It's much easier than taking that responsibility and holding
you.
yourself accountable to it, like you were saying earlier. It's just another way it shows up.
Another way it shows up.
Our brains...
And then because of that lack of accountability, because of that lack of responsibility, you've now created a bit of chaos. You've now created a bit of chaos, like, because responsibility and accountability is a type of order. It's a type of order, type of law and order, if you want to go that far, type of order in this world, a hierarchy of some sort, step by step, you know. Without that, you've just got chaos. And I think that's literally what that is like. You're taking accountability, you're taking the easy way out. You're labeling this, you're labeling that. You're now creating chaos because you're now bringing all these feelings and emotions into it. Everyone's feeling this type of way and that type of way. No one's reached a resolution now because you haven't even sat down with opposite side and maybe even just said hello or whichever. You've just labeled it as something else. Like,
what is identity to you?
What's identity? What's identity to me? What is identity to me? I think it's definitely what is identity? God damn. Obviously, you got physical identity. I do believe in the soul. I do believe the soul is a thing. So I do think that's another identity of yours. But then again, I think we're all just human. Right? We're all human. Different shades of orange. Different shades
that's
of
a good
orange.
point. Yeah. When you do a color wheel, yeah.
Different shades of orange. Some of us have got melanin because, you know, our family tree has been in a place where there's more sun longer. You see what I'm saying? Some people may have smaller noses because, you know, whatever the reason is. We just have our different adaptations because of an environment. But at the end of the day, we're still all the same because we can procreate with each other anyway.
We're all the same race.
Yeah. So instead of thinking of an identity to box yourself in, just don't be boxed in because you're not boxed in. You're all the same. The more you box yourself in, the more you just separate yourself.
Yes.
And try and separate yourself by something that really doesn't even matter. I'm black, you're white. But we're both human.
Yeah.
You got a mum, I've got a mum. You got a dad, I've got a dad. Any siblings?
No.
No siblings?
No, not for me.
Okay, I've got a few siblings. I've got a few siblings. But
do you know
do
you know how I was first? You know how I was first taught this? I love this story, and I still tell this all the time because it's just such a great analogy. I was in English class,
right,
and my English teacher, he takes the time to teach us his lesson,
right,
and he goes, "What's the opposite of a man?"
Right.
What comes to your mind?
Female.
Okay, the opposite of a man, a woman. He goes, well, actually, there's nothing more like a human man than a human woman on planet Earth. Period.
Yeah, of course.
All the same
human,
organs.
Yeah.
The only thing that a man doesn't have is a womb.
Yeah.
I think we've got a difference of like rib.
Body structure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, there's nothing more similar to a human man than a human woman. So
100%.
Are we really opposites, or is that just a label we've put on it to conceptualize something? And then he goes on, he goes, okay, what's the opposite of the sun? The answer is
I'd probably say moon.
The moon.
Yeah.
But it's like, but they're both just bodies in celestial bodies floating in space.
Yeah.
Are they really opposites? We created the conceptualization that they're two different things, that they're two separate, they're two opposite things. But these are labels we put on. And I just think this is so beautiful because actually we are far more alike than we will ever be different. And anything 100%. That isn't us understanding that is a label. 100%. I think the reason I ask you about identity, this is so interesting, is because you ask different people what identity means to them.
Some people say race, isn't it?
Exactly. And I've always found race funny because like I'm a fantasy nerd. So I'm like, well, when I hear races, I'm thinking like elves and dwarves. I'm like, it's like we're all but actually the reason why that was such a powerful analogy for me to realize is, well, that just means that race is a concept too, right? It like it's all just a construct. I know it can feel a bit shitty to some people, but the differences in lived experience matter. But to label us as being more different than we are immediately puts us on the back foot 100%. Of the mission that is togetherness and the mission that is unity and the mission that 100%. Is whatever the collective mission of humanity is. And so identity, I think, is really important for understanding what matters to you. I think it gets really dangerous when you cross a line. I think it's a very thin line into attachment.
Attachment to a label.
If I'm attached to the label, as opposed to just acknowledging, let's say sexual orientation is a big one, right? People from the LGBTQ plus community, very... their identity matters to them because we're living in a period of history where you were told your identity is not okay. Okay, cool. At some point you cross a line into being so attached to it that if someone says, so for example, I think LGBTQ plus is a silly acronym because there's so many different things within this acronym that are actually very different to each other. The experience of a gay white man is very different to the experience of a black trans woman. Totally different life experiences. How can you lump this all into one bucket? But some people are so attached to their identity that they're attached to the word, the label, and will defend it until the day they die. When actually we should all agree that it's the lived experience that matters more than what we do for the individual, I think, personally. And so my perspective, I guess, is that we get so attached to the identity that it becomes who we are as opposed to an acknowledgement about an aspect of us. And that can just become really dangerous.
100%. And that's where you get all these, you get some of these racial wars, you get, with these discrepancies. So I actually understand what you're saying. I think the race one is, as you said as well, the race one is a bit weird, man. Because obviously there is racism out here, of course. But I think some people wear it on their chest so much that they forget that they're human first.
Oh, interesting. Talk to me about that. What do you mean? When you say some people, who
So let me give you an example. So in America, you'll see people talking about what can we do to fix the country? What can we do to help Americans? Let's say Donald Trump, for example. He's caring about Americans in general. American citizens. Now you go to the left side, they're doing these identity politics. Black Americans, Latino Americans, whatever it is, Americans. Why is there 3 categories of Americans? So am I not just American? So you're creating a divide in that as well. And man, I'm just like, listen, we're all in this country. It's like someone's gonna say that what are you doing for the black community, for example, or for the this or the Asian community or whichever. It's like, do you not live in England? No. Like you still live in England, innit? So whatever befalls England, it's gonna befall you as well. So why the box? Why the box again?
Someone else put me into the box, and now I think the box is mine. But someone else is the one who designed it and put me in there.
Literally.
You know what I just came to mind is really ironic. One of the reasons the British were so successful at the game of colonialism is because of divide and conquer. And now we've got socially acceptable divide and conquer. Which should be really terrifying.
It's going to lead to societal destruction. As
Well, interesting.
That's the English have shown in the other places that they've colonized as well through that divide and conquer mentality. It ends up destroying the land, doesn't it?
That's such a good point. Because if we now have societal divide and conquer, but but divide and conquer would have been accepted in England.
Yeah, it's acceptable chaos, basically.
And this is really interesting.
That's what I think. I think it's just acceptable chaos.
And do you think that's because we like or have accepted or acknowledged it as chaos? Or do you think, or something else? Like, do you think maybe we just don't realize that it's chaos? This is what order is, and order is actually chaos, and we just masquerading as order.
It's funny, yeah. This is another great point. It's another great point because obviously the world is chaos, right? Mm-hmm. The fact that you never know what's gonna happen. So many factors around you that can push this one way, push that one way. So in a way, obviously, when you're looking at the macro, obviously, order is chaos, as you mentioned. So the best thing to do is not to create more chaos. The best thing to do, if anything, is to keep united and try and keep some sort of, not a box, but I'm drawing a box, which is crazy. But keep what does it say? Yes. So if the world is chaos or whichever, the best thing to do is not to create more chaos and more divide, like, because that's really not what you need. Like, and I also think the chaos is also from like evil entities as well, because there are goods and bads in this world anyway. But the best thing to do is not create more chaos, man. I really don't think that doesn't lead to anything good. More chaos is just more of the devil's playground. So if anything, the one thing that you can do to counteract that chaos is to show some love, show some unity, because regardless of what happens in the world that is chaos, if there is some love, if there is some unity between everyone, even respect, just as a human being, there's no reason why we all can't make the most out of a bad situation. So I just think people should start focusing on the stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I love it. Have the awareness to understand what matters and let go of the things that don't. And the wisdom to know the difference, to butcher that quote. But you've got to start somewhere. And when you acknowledge that what you're doing is unhelpful and just stop, sometimes that's the most powerful thing. 100%. Right? Because it becomes a case of prevention is better than cure. I'd rather just not create a problem.
Some people love chaos. Some people love chaos. They're agents of chaos. And
do you think people may be just lost?
That's still chaos, isn't it? If you ask me. If you're lost, you're wayward. You haven't got a set goal, set task. You're allowing things to just befall you. It's chaos in a way.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, whether the intention is malicious or not might be irrelevant. Yeah, that's interesting. This conversation has flown by.
Where are we now?
We're at almost 3:00. I know. It's crazy. So as we start to wrap things up, because this has gone in all kinds of directions I didn't expect, and we didn't get into as much in other things I wanted to get into. So we're gonna have to come back for part 2 one day.
Listen,
this has been epic.
Fully down for that.
This has been epic.
This was less of a business, more of a philosophical.
You know what? And this is an interesting timing because I've done my first 20 or so episodes of the show. And that was my test period.
Right.
And using that, I wanted to go down more into the philosophical, the psychological, the spiritual, and where that bridges with the practical. Yeah. And how that lets us cultivate our greatest inner leader, as opposed to it being what it kind of started at, which was more of a leadership development focused show. It just so happens a lot of my network is founders. Right. So that was the easiest leadership link. And then it became, but I don't want it to be all business and all leadership. I want it to be the self-leader. And I don't think we can really explore that without exploring some of these things we've talked about today. Yeah. So I just find this fascinating.
The self-leadership, I think, the self-leadership aspect you mentioned, everyone has their own philosophies, how they deal with things. Obviously, we spoke about philosophies as well. So I think it's I think there's absolutely, I think what you've done is great with, obviously with this podcast, with the episodes that you've done as well, because your leadership method comes from some sort of philosophy, some sort of experience you've had in the past, or maybe a lesson you've learned, which all ties into that spiritual energy element, almost. So I think you can't really talk about leadership and stuff too much without going into that. I'll be honest. I'll be honest. Because leadership with what foundation? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, can you really be a leader with no foundation?
Yes.
Like, what is a foundation? Anyway.
Yeah. Oh man, don't start me down this rabbit hole, dude.
I'm joking. Why you go trying to say that?
That's such a classic philosophical question. What is the thing we've been talking about this whole time? Let's. But
you get what I'm trying to say.
No,
like,
absolutely.
Leadership comes from some sort of philosophy, some sort of foundation or lesson learned. So or just the way you do things in general. It doesn't even have to be leadership. The way you move about life, it comes from some sort of philosophy, some sort of lesson, some sort of teaching. So
yes, totally. I'm totally with you. That's what I want to find a way of communicating that consistently.
Yeah.
For the goal of helping us discover and cultivate that greatest inner leader. And I think it's that communication path, carving out the niche, if there's a niche, because what we're describing is quite broad, but I think that's okay. Yeah. Sometimes you don't need to be too niche, I think. But anyway,
I agree.
So one of the things I'm trying to figure out, and this has been really interesting because it's been much more aligned with that. Yeah. So I'm loving it. Look, to wrap us up, I've got a closing question I'd like to ask everyone. The show is called Lost in Searching.
Okay.
And Kunmi, I'd love to know, is there anything in life that you are still searching for the answer to? Any big thing?
I'm still searching for the answer to.
Or if I were to rephrase the question, I'd say, what is the biggest question in life that you are still searching for the answer to?
I'm still searching for the answer to, I would say, biggest question in life. It's actually to do with religion. And to put it bluntly, the question is, are my actions and my way of life pleasing to the Most High enough, to... Dang. I think one of the real questions that I've been asking myself lately is, do I want to be a man of the world or a man of God?
Do you have to choose?
You can't be one and you can't be both.
Why? Why not? When you say of the world, what do you mean?
Okay, man of the world is, for example, maybe a man who's slave to his own desires, maybe slave to his own egos. Maybe not always just a slave, but he's just someone who goes by the way of man, as opposed to the way of God. The way of God teaches you to be, obviously, in the Bible. Jesus says this as who he is as well. That's, a proper disciple is a man of God. And someone who's not a disciple is a man of the world. So I've definitely been trying to ask myself, like, is there a way to kind of bend between both a little bit? Like, is there a way to do that? I don't think there is.
That's interesting.
So I think the question I'm really trying to ask is, am I ready to make that change to become a full man of God or not?
That's such an important personal development question. For a little bit of context, I don't consider myself religious, but I do feel very spiritually connected.
Got the morals as well.
Pardon?
And morally as well.
That too. Well, I think morals can be a funny word, but for me, spirituality has been a really significant part of my life for the last year or so. It really grown is what I mean.
Right.
I've got a funny journey with religion, which I won't go through now, but basically the older I've gotten, the more spiritually connected I felt.
Yeah.
And I probably take closer to like a Buddhist approach.
Yeah.
But there's something in here of if we understand that when we talk about God, what we're really talking about is a consciousness that the universe has, this eternal consciousness that is greater than us, that we are all a part of something much bigger than ourselves.
100%.
It therefore demands, in the way that we talked about in the beginning about these higher energy centers, they are things like love or experiences like love, like truth, gratitude, wholeness, divinity, these feelings that we're a part of some greater whole. And those things demand that you leave attachment behind to ego, fear, sadness, hate, pain, lust. And if being, in your words, man of the world means those what I would call survival energy centers or survival emotions, then you can't have, you can tap into the survival emotions when you need to. But the base state is to be more neutral in those more creation states, a little bit higher above.
Right.
Like the way I think about it is the way I think about it personally is we wouldn't have the ability to have anger if we didn't need it. We wouldn't have the ability to have sadness, to have lust if we didn't need it. But that doesn't mean it should be our default state. So in other words,
there's a time and place for everything.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I've started to see them as tools.
Right.
And if I was a carpenter and I used the same tool on everything, I'd never get anything finished. Right?
Yeah,
you know, the saying, a man with a hammer sees every problem as a nail, or or something like that.
Yeah, I see. I know see what you're trying to say, yeah.
So if it's a tool, you choose not to use it unless you really need to.
Right.
So I can choose not to tap into certain things, or to let anger go, or to let frustration go. And I know if I feel it up, if I feel it building up, okay, maybe that's my body doing its natural thing, and my consciousness or my soul isn't really loving that. So what is my consciousness telling my body it needs to go do to get rid of that chemical that it has naturally? And it's not a bad thing because it's a chemical, like you said, it's a chemical thing that it does naturally for a reason, but I don't need it right now. So what do I need to go do? I need to go exercise. So I get rid of the chemical or whatever.
Right.
So I think it's a fine line, because it means approaching everything possible with some level of conscious awareness, noticing in the moment, okay, I have too much of what I would call survival, or I'm got too much ego right now and I just don't want it.
Right.
Because what I want to be is my more conscious, aware, awake self right now.
Right.
Okay, what do I do? Great, now you can go answer that question. Without that awareness, you can't start answering the question. You can have some level, I don't think we can get into creation without coming out of survival.
Yeah, cool.
That's why the energy centers go upwards. Only once we cross what I've started calling the line, which is between the third and fourth energy center, do you go out of survival from creation. Stomach and heart. So you go from essentially fear, ego, sadness is below that, lust is below that, cross that into heart-centeredness and above. Only when you cross that do you get into creation, and you can't be in creation if you're stuck in survival.
That's true.
Which we also know on a practical level, because if I'm terrified of getting kicked out of my house next month, how am I going to build a business? I don't have the creative space to create the product or whatever.
Too much stress, too much
stress, exactly. So we've come full circle back to that. But no, it's a really interesting question, because I would agree. I don't think you can. I think the reframing of how you go about daily life is the important conversation to have with yourself.
Right.
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about that?
I'm in agreement with you. I think I need to take a bit more time to even process all that we said, because even before this, I hadn't had too much time to really think about some of these perspectives. So I think I might have to hold off before I give you a certain answer.
Good. We can come back to part two.
Yeah.
But no, look, man, I've really, really enjoyed this. It's total coincidence that this is really fitting into a bit more of the direction I want the show to go in. But also, maybe it's not a coincidence. I've kind of
maybe
stopped
it's meant to
believing
be.
in it. Exactly. Synchronicity. I've loved this. So thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming onto the show. It's been a great chat.
So,
Have a good one. And thank you so much, man.
it's been a long time since I've seen you as well. So
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
glad
It's
to
been a
be
good
here.
catch up.
I'm glad to see you as well. So, you're welcome to come anytime.
There we go. Love it, man. Alrighty, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. I hope you found it valuable. We've reached a number of really important milestones on this show already. It's only been a couple of months, but I'm so grateful to those of you who not only subscribe, but also who listen this far along, who leave the comments on posts, or who give me really powerful, beautiful messages in response. It's been a humbling journey, and there is so much more to come. If there's something about this episode and the question that we answered, or any of the learnings that you took away that you want to make sure someone else you know understands themselves, then please do share this episode with them, along with your reflections, teaching other people something that you learned, passing the information on, or even just writing it down for yourself. All help you retain the answers to this, and any inspiration it gave you even more. That's the purpose of all this, is to give you as much positive, powerful, impactful results as possible on your journey to developing your own inner leader from so many different dimensions, not just the one we've talked about today. So thank you so much for being here, sending lots of love, and here's to your success.